Welcome to Neo Royal House of Pricey Cardboard. On today's episode of Commander Gameplay, we have returning guests, a new one, some new decks, and absolutely no blue. Piloting Fynn the Fang Bearer, we have Chris, your Commander Mechanic. Chris is running a popular YouTube channel where you can find a lot of great deck techs and brews for all price range. His deck for today is looking to play a lot of deathtouch creatures to get us to 10 poison counters and win. We also have some vehicles to bring the snakes on a plane sub-team to life. It's a very interesting deck, and while you can't one-shot opponents as easily with Fynn's ability compared to regular infect, the interaction between deathtouch, tribal, and trample makes for some great board states. Piloting Radiant Archangel, our new guest Peter, also known as MonoWhiteBorder. Brewer of powerful jank, he owns more mono-white decks than you and should not be underestimated with them. You can follow him on Twitter and keep up with his blog. His deck for today is for the most part a flying hatebear list, looking to slow his opponents while he gets his commander used for commander damage. There's also a slide land drop sub-team with Ghost Town and a death trigger sub-team looking to always keep flyers on the board even when his hatebears are destroyed. Next, my good friend ProxyLab is playing Yawgmoth Trend Physician. You can follow Proxy on Twitter where he shares his creation or his crazy stream plans like the Gooooood that we covered on this channel not long ago. His deck is a pretty optimized list looking to create a lot of creatures to control the board with Yawgmoth's abilities and draw into his win cons like Aetherflux Reservoir combined with Bolas Citadel or some other combos. For myself, I will be playing my new deck that I named Tainted Love. Led by Tayam, Luminous Enigma, this deck is looking to play around with counters, +1/+1, -1/-1s, and some more. I can go wide and tall, there's self-mill involved, and a little landfall sub-team. Eerie Ultimatum, bringing back a bunch of lands from my grave to proliferate my opponents to 10 infects with Evolution Sage and Ichor Rats is my favorite combo I managed to pull up to now. Altar of Dementia with Rayhan is also a great synergy I used to have in my Atraxa list long ago. You can mill out the table pretty quickly by bouncing the counters from one creature to another. My opening hand contains Yahenni Undying Partisan, Manglehorn, Oreskos Explorer, Isolated Chapel, Godless Shrine, Twilight Mire, and a basic Plains. Proxy's opening hand contains Genesis Chamber, Twilight Prophet, Bolas Citadel, Torment of Hellfire, and 3 basic swamps. Peter's opening hand contains Downglare Invoker, Mask of Memory, Bygone Bishop, Arc of Vraska, and 3 basic Plains. Chris' opening hand contains Tajuru Blightblade, Ren's Run Vanquisher, Smuggler's Captor, Plague Mob Beast, Kenrith's Transformation, and 2 basic forests. Chris gets to start this up, and land drops a basic forest. He casts Tajuru Blightblade. Proxy land drops a swamp, and I land drop a Godless Shrine. Peter land drops a plains and end turn 1. Chris land drops a forest, and casts his commander, Fynn the Fang Bearer.
Come, Kuma, and reclaim what you lost, or does the Great Serpent fear a rematch?
2 poison counter.
Oh, you're making my job easy.
Yeah, because Proxy, I'm making your job so easy, I'm gonna poke it for 1.
I'll take it for now.
Alright, so that's perfect. Now Proxy's gonna be busy with Chris, so we're free to go. He goes to combat, sending Tajuru to Proxy. Fynn triggers and gives Proxy 2 poison counters. Proxy land drops Urbog, Tomb of Yawgmoth, and then casts Genesis Chamber. I then drop Twilight Mire and cast the Ozolith. Peter land drops a Plains and casts Mask of Memory. Still facing a table without blockers, Chris untaps and land drops a Karn's Bastion. He casts a Soul Ring and then Smuggler's Copter.
Which we're gonna tap for a Smuggler's Copter, the first plane for my snakes.
Going to combat, he sends Fynn to Peter and Tajuru to me. We now all have 2 poison counters. Proxy then drops a swamp and casts Phyrexian Arena. And drops a Plains and casts Yahenni Undying Partisan. Entering the battlefield, I get a 1/1 mirror token from the Genesis Chamber, which should give me a break from the deathtouch for now. Peter then drops a Plains and casts Bygone Bishop. He gets a mirror as well and pass. Chris then drops a forest and casts Plague Mob Beast. He gets a mirror and uses it to crew the Smuggler's Copter. Once again going to combat, he sends the mirror-driven plane to me, and Tajuru with Fynn to Proxy, as the proliferate on Yawgmoth could be problematic in the later turns. Attacking, the Smuggler's Copter will let Chris draw and discard a card. At Proxy's upkeep, he loses one and draws a card. He then drops a Phyrexia Tower, and after that, he casts his commander, Yawgmoth, Trend Physician.
I strive for perfection, true perfection, Phyrexian perfection.
I then drop an Isolated Chapel, and cast my commander, Tayam, Luminous Enigma.
Right here, in the swamps of Indata, we can observe the legendary beast Tayam in its natural habitat. What a wonderful creature!
During the battlefield, I get a mirror token which enters with a vigilance counter. I then pass. Peter equips the mask on his spirit, and goes to combat, attacking Chris with the bishop. The mask triggers on damage and Peter draws 2 before discarding 1. In second main, he then drops a plains, getting a clue, and casts Kinjali's Sunwing, getting a mirror.
If watching Blue's Clues taught me anything, it's that you can never have too many clues. And then I'll pass, Chris.
On his turn, Chris taps the Plegma to sacrifice the mirror, proliferating or poison counters. He then casts Narnam Renegade. Reacting to the spell, Proxy activates Yawgmoth to sacrifice his mirror and put a -1/-1 on Chris's deathtouch. Chris reacts by crewing the copter with the creature. Narnam then resolves and enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter because of Revolt. Before going to combat, Proxy casts Deadly Relic, exiling the Smuggler's Copter. Chris then pass. Proxy draws an additional card at his upkeep, and then drops a Swamp.
Oh, we have 3 monocolor decks on. That's cool. I
Yeah,
just noticed that. And then Neo, you're the 3 colors of our 3 monocolors deck. You should be arch enemy.
I think that's special enough that it should make a video.
He casts Twilight Prophet, and as he's at exactly 10 permanents, he gains the city's blessing. I cast Oreskos Explorer. Entering the battlefield, I get a plains from my deck to my hand as one of my opponents have more lands than me. Come on, Chris. I get Temple Garden and land drop it for a turn untapped. I then cast Nest of Scarabs. Heading into combat, I chip in, sending Yahini to Chris. Peter then drops Ark of Araska, joining Proxy on top of the city. He then heads into combat, sending the Bishop to Chris. The mask triggers on damage.
There, I have a city's blessing.
Might be a little big.
Peter casts his commander, Radiant Archangel. At the end step, Chris uses his Karn Bastion to proliferate or poison counters and his +1/+1. He sadly declines to proliferate mines. At Chris's upkeep, Proxy sacrifices mirror to put a -1/-1 on Chris's mirror. Sadly, the Plegma is already untapped and Chris can use it to proliferate once more, leaving Proxy at death's door, while my Yaini continue to grow. Chris casts Lanoir Elf, getting a mirror on ETB. He then passes, keeping the Bastion up. At Proxy's upkeep, he draws from the arena and reveals for the Prophet. He reveals a Cabal Ritual, losing us 2 life and gaining 2. He then land drops a Swamp and casts Dark Ritual, following up with Cabal Ritual, and then Aetherflux Reservoir. After that, he casts Abysmal Gatekeeper, gaining 4 life and a mirror. He then casts Torment of Hellfire, where X equals 1. We all sacrifice a mirror to the spell resolution, while Proxy gains 5.
So, Proxy's pretty much dead. Starting from that point.
Yeah, I don't think I was coming after you anyway, but you're right.
I will.
And then I will be the only one with City's Blessing. That's my goal.
I cast Glistening Hoy, enchanting my Yahini. For my combat step, I send my 2 mirrors and Yahini to Chris. Chris blocks Yahini with Fynn and 1 mirror with his Renegade. Reacting to blockers, I activate Tayam, removing all 3 vigilance counters. I mill 3 and return Abzan Falconeer to the battlefield. I get a new mirror and they both get a vigilance counter. Still before damage, I sacrifice the blocked mirror to grant Undestructible to Yahini. Fynn dies and Chris takes 1. I then drop a plains in second main and pass. Peter then drops a beautiful plains by Bento, getting a clue. He then casts Spirit Bonds, and follow it up with Remorseful Cleric, getting a mirror. Going to combat, Radiant attacks me and the Bishop attacks Chris.
On the
Each other
battlefield.
flying
Alright.
creature on the whole table.
Nice.
Before damage happens, I'm gonna sack the Twilight Prophet.
Oh, what a man.
Draw a card.
Okay. So, Neo, you'll take one less.
Yes.
That's all I can do.
I need a hero.
I'll bet your ass on
I'll
Proxy
do that
card.
hero.
But before damage, Proxy sacrifices Twilight Prophet to draw a card. He does not put a -1/-1 on anything, reducing radiant power by 1. The mask then triggers on damage.
Alright, well, I hate to do it, Proxy, but I am going to proliferate.
You don't have to choose me. You choose whatever you want to proliferate when you proliferate.
Reacting to the proliferate, Proxy sacrifices Abysmal Gatekeeper to Yawgmoth. He does the same with his mirror and put both -1/-1s on the Renegade. We each have to sacrifice a creature, and we sacrifice the Llanowar Elf and 2 mirrors. He does not find a card to save him and dies to poison counters. Chris casts Evolution Sage.
Oh, no, 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 no.
No.
He then land drops a forest, proliferating with the Sage, and recasts Fynn before passing. At my upkeep, I put a -1/-1 on Yahini, creating a black insect token. It enters with a Vigilance counter as well.
Gonna play a Gavany Township.
Chris?
You have no right, Chris, to say that.
I then drop Gavany Township and activate it for a +1/+1 on all my creatures, granting them flying and making Radiant into a huge monster. I go to combat, sending Yahini to Chris for 13 infect damage. Before dying, Chris activates the Plague Mod to give us 1 more infect each before leaving the match. Chris is then taken out by his own weapon of choice. At my end step, Peter cracks a clue to draw before going to his turn. He then drops a Plains, getting a new clue. He then flashbacks Divine Reckoning. Holding priority, he sacrificed the Cleric to exile my graveyard. I then react to the board wipe by sacrificing one of my creatures to make Yahini indestructible. We then resolve the board wipe, putting 5 +1/+1 counters and 4 Vigilance counter on my Ozolith. Yahini also gains 5 counters from Peter's creatures. For his combat, Peter sends Radiant to me. At my upkeep, I put a -1/-1 on Yahini, creating another insect token, and then land drop a Command Tower. At the beginning of combat, the Ozolith lets me empty it on my commander, and still before attackers, I pay 3 mana, removing 3 Vigilance counters to activate Tayam. I mill 3 and return the abzan Falconeer to my battlefield. I activate Tayam once more, removing 2 more Vigilance and a +1/+1 to return my Scavenging Ooze. I then finally go to attackers and send Tayam with Yahini to Peter. He blocks Yahini with Radiant, taking 8 commander damage. Since Infect puts -1/-1 counters, I create 18 Scarabs, which all enters with a Vigilance counter. Digging for answers, Peter cracks a clue to draw, and then casts Ghostly Prison. He then drops a Plains, and pass. At my upkeep, Yahini gains a -1/-1 counter. I create another insect with Vigilance. Going for the Alpha Strike, I send Yahini and Tayam to Peter. Peter flashes in Contentment Priest, but since both my creatures are flying, he can't block it, and get taken out by the sky. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and thank you to my 3 guests for making this game happen. We didn't plan the pod at all, and getting no blue, no red, and 3 decks able to play with infect counters made for quite the match. I will leave in the description links to their different socials. Make sure to like and subscribe to help us grow. Take care, and we'll see you very soon.
Adventure time! Come on, grab your friends, we'll go to very distant lands. With Commander Serpent and Fynn the human, the fun will never end. It's adventure time!